Hello, and hello to the viewers. We're on the second workshop week for social design, and we're really lucky to have with us Babis Alexiadis, who is conducting the workshop for first year students in animation. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Could you please tell a few words about who you are as an animator and how you got in the field of animation and art in general?
Okay, that's a great question. It's been a long time since I answered this. I started as a graphic designer. Long story short, I felt it was a print-based graphic designer. Very quickly, although it took 3 years, but very quickly I realized that I felt I was limited by doing stuff on paper. And then really quickly, right after I finished my BA, I decided to do an MA in design and digital media. I had a magnificent tutor on a free choice module, which was animation. And as soon as I started, I realized I wanted to do this myself. No confidence whatsoever in creating my own drawings, but it was a good guidance from the school. And then I was lucky enough to get some commission right after I finished my MA and kind of realized that this is what I wanted to do. And then from experience, I kind of carried on doing animation. I do traditional animation, 25 frames per second, although I have looked and experienced and worked with different techniques depending on the different medium I'm working with or different project. But overall, if I would answer your question, it would be classic traditional animation.
And you conduct quite a lot of workshops, not only in our university, but now in particular, I would like to ask, what is this workshop that you're doing about to the people who are watching?
Yes, I think I always am really fond of coming back and teaching here just because regardless, although it's quite important, but putting aside the technicalities of the workshop, I have had the freedom of navigating and doing a workshop on my own terms. And I always think that the most important aspect of being an animator is to be a good storyteller. I can totally appreciate that you can work for someone else and you have to have the skills of animating a character, creating a scene. But I feel that for the first year student, as an introductory element to the way they compile their own aesthetic, is to have the strength and the confidence to tell a story and to make their story matter. I can sit here and tell you a story if I know you for like 2 days. You almost will understand my mannerism. Possibly I can make you laugh, but you put a camera across me on YouTube and I can talk for 3 minutes and it can get a bit boring. So it's really important for me to explain to them camera angles, how you move your character, and I feel I have the space because it lasts for a week and the freedom to have people focused on that and then on secondary level be able to compile that and make a working storyboard or an animatic, but be super confident that the story they told was in the best way possible. And I always like the fact that there is social agenda around it, that it's super important in my practice. I love working with projects that they have a social substance. The subject matter is important. And here I love the fact that I don't come in and talk practicalities and key points and tick boxes, but I am able to have a discussions with the student as equals because you know people's opinion matter. And there have been times that I disagree with people, but I find that super creative on the context of an academia to be able to put aside the technicalities and engage on a one-to-one on a social agenda and then give people the options how to tell the story regardless if it's opinion or not.
How does it feel to work with students who have no experience in animation? Because since these are fresh first year students and they come in here, most likely they just don't have the experience working in teams and doing some kind of animation in a short period of time. How do you approach this type of work with them, and what do you find interesting in it?
I think I've never thought about that. That's another really cool question. But I feel that I mean if I be super honest and maybe we can cut this out. not everyone is an amazing storyteller.
Fair enough, yeah.
But some people are amazing drawers. Some people can instinctively hear the music. For instance, I'm not that person. I cannot hear the music. I don't see sound when I draw. So it's important for me. I wrote down big, massive letters on the wall, on a paper on the wall, not on the wall. Delegation. It's really important within the group you're with to understand whose strength is storyboarding, who's good at presenting. I'm not a good presenter. I can talk, but I cannot animate and sell your story. And sell, I mean it in quotation mark. I mean, like, present it in a way that you will understand. So it's important for me. At the beginning, I was like, everybody's a good storyteller. And then I thought I should talk realistic to people if that's the beginning. It's like, if you're a good storyteller, do that. But you're a good character animator. You thought about the eyes instinctively because you've never done animation before. It's important that, you saw that and you knew you were good at it. So I try to find people's strengths and then not necessarily compliment them, but tell them how important are within the group. Because sometimes people can feel pressure to become something that maybe instinctively they're not. Now, this is on a level of what instinctively is good for you, but obviously then you talk about, experience. You can gain a lot from experience. Practice, it's an important aspect of it. But to answer the question, I think it's just like from my experience trying to see who's good at what and then give them that responsibility within the group.
What you're talking about sounds to me like you're doing the creative director work. And that makes me curious, how does the work when you're, for example, working in a company and you're a creative director differ for you from doing freelance job?
Okay. I haven't done the creative direction on behalf of somebody else for quite some time. I can answer your question where the animation is part of a bigger project, like in theater production. I find that super creative. I have been super fortunate to work with amazing directors, actors, composers. I'm a great I feel I'm a great communicator. I feel I thrive on communication. I think that's the best way of putting it. I many years ago I was given a project which was my back then it was the biggest theater production I got in London, and I found it really surprising when the director told me that there was a station, an office they built next to the stage, like close to the stage, and I should attend all the rehearsals. And I just didn't understand it. Like in my head, I get the brief, I go home, 20 days, lock myself in, present the storyboard, and that's that. And I cannot highlight enough how beneficial it was to be present while the project organically developed. Like, I don't feel my work would have been so relevant if I had been home, distant from what I'm doing, by being there. It was like, and from then on, I never work remote when when animation is part of a bigger project. So I feel that's the difference. When I'm freelancing, I work in my studio with the people I work with, and when I work for a bigger project, I want to be as present as I can.
I've seen multiple of your projects, including Curtain Call, that 360 theater animation. That was a really, and it's a big production, right? Do you have any specific, maybe fun memory from working on that set?
Yeah, the fact that nobody could ever. I worked on a mock-up of how the animation it was, although it hasn't been. It's been like almost like 10 years ago, or nine. I don't remember. But the projection technology is way advanced now, but back in the day that was 12 projectors. So I had to compile everything together, and I've done this and I worked with the project manager. Not, I remember seeing it for like 6 months, working on it. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw on the day that I saw the animation. Like, it was bigger than life for me. Like, I remember that I was like, this is a moment to remember, because it was a massive project, and I felt that maybe I will never experience that thing again. And the rendering was ridiculous. I don't know if we can say that on like, I have never experienced that type of rendering ever in my life before. I remember like my laptop and my desktop, everything was crashing continuously. I had to go to like a render farm, which I never thought before. I knew they existed. I just never thought it existed will exist for me. So yeah, it was.
But the end result is what is when this is paying off with the work and you see all of the things happen from what you described, it sounds really, really cool. And also, I'm curious to know, what do you find, and do you find any fascination in movement and dance, because you worked on the music videos, like there was a music video, Hotel, and there was another music video, Travel in Time, which is about movement and dance. How do you feel about that in your work?
I I love the art of dance. I whenever I used it without working directly with dancers or dance not being the subject matter of the project I'm doing, like the things you mentioned, I imposed in quotation mark the dance in the project. I proposed that as an idea and I strongly suggested because I felt obviously it was a music video, movement is part of rhythm. Um, but it's something that I instinctively connect with. I feel like if I was an animator, maybe I would be a dancer. Like I have a thing. And also, to answer your question, when I did animation and when I did film and when I did theater, I since then I have never had as an audience the same experience. If I go and see a theater production, it's not magic for me as it used to be before I got involved. I try to deconstruct what I see, especially with technical aspects, lighting. Dance is still magic for me. Like I sit there, I'm like my eyes get really wide open. So I feel that when I work with dancers or dance being the main objective of what I'm doing, I feel like my eyes get wide open and I have an instinctive connection to the subject matter. It's something that makes me feel really good when I'm working on it. To answer your questions, if I could do only dance, I would do only dance. It's never the agenda.
But that is,
Unfortunately.
yeah, that is really, really fascinating. I also want to know, what would you suggest to people who, well, especially younger people, students who are, they have a feeling that they are interested and fascinated, as you said, because they haven't worked in it. They treat this animation and these productions like magic. How would you suggest for them to get into it, to start working in this field?
Okay. I teach aside of here, I teach in other institutions. What after having the experience that I have, I always like go with your gut instinct and find your interest, and that's fair and great. But I feel that if you filter that through experience, it will get you to the point you want organically. Totally go with what your instinct is, but go and watch as many animations you can, short films, meet other people, try to expose your work to a wider audience, get feedback. I think elements like this will guide you to where you want to go as long as in the back of your head. But being a more mature person through work, I feel that not necessarily work. Work will be there and you will have to do it because you need to earn a living and stuff. Expose yourself to new things in terms of techniques, people, artists, galleries, books. I think as artists, never never settle to the point that you feel you've seen everything. Make yourself curious constantly, and I feel that subconsciously that will inform your practice.
So you think that it is as important as working, it is important to observe. And
I feel it's most important to observe that work.
and lastly, a fun question I just wanted to ask: do you maybe have a animation or animated movie that started the spark in you, that you knew that you want to be doing this, the animation in general?
I'm just gonna be so cliche now, it's unreal. But and also I don't do it as practice. I just remember that watching it, if I could be an character now. Watching it was like somebody very gently, but in a great force, like pushed my head and everything went, you know, like, that's what I wanted to. It was watching Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh,
Tim Burton. I mean, I love Tim Burton. I watched this, immediately went and found Vincent. I was like, I didn't have words. I just loved it. My film noir animation and scary horror stuff, it's not my thing. I just felt that in an older age, I was introduced to an aesthetic that spoke to me about the possibilities of creating your own little world. And like it needed no explanation. The setup was there and that was the world, and you had to accept it because it was there, done in an immaculate way, in perfection. There was no questions of why the characters are this way or that way, no introduction. For me, it was an artistic statement that I still fully respect. I can give you a number of animations, but I feel that in the core of who I am, Nightmare Before Christmas was like a massive book. Like I read about it, I got the DVDs, the director's cut. I was like totally obsessed with it, and I feel till now it's something that I watch so many times it doesn't have the same effect now, but it's definitely something that I love. Yeah, I loved when I was doing animation. Definitely.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
It
That
a
was
pleasure.
great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.